JICA project to boost trade between Uganda and South Sudan. That and more stories in Abuli today. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahawe Kajura. But first are the headlines. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni urges South-to-South member states to cooperate and ensure affluence. And regional leaders meet to discuss fight against Al-Shabaab. In our sports news today, Madagascar fans proud to team despite a semi-final loss to Senegal. Once again, thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. We start with one of our top stories. The future of trade between Uganda and South Sudan seems bright, according to Dennis Lutaya, a supervisor tax investigations at the Ugandan Revenue Authority. Now, Lutaya spoke at the Japan International Cooperation Agency Completion Conference in Kampala. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
Dennis Lutaya, a supervisor tax investigations at the Uganda Revenue Authority, was presiding over the JICA Completion Conference under the Project for Capacity Development of South Sudan Customs for Introduction of Harmonized Systems Code Phase 2. He said the JICA project will help reduce the cost of doing business in Uganda and South Sudan.
So that's the impact. It will impact on the costs of doing business, because now people are competent. You have competent staff. They know that this is okay. And one thing is for sure, our exports should mirror their imports, South Sudan imports, in terms of the valuation, in terms of the classification, in terms of the origin of goods. So that is something that is pertinent from the Ugandan side.
JICA's cooperation with Uganda is primarily focused on improving the environment to attain economic growth, raising incomes in rural areas, improving the living environment, and providing support in the northern region. According to Ms. Nuri Namuguchi, the chief advisor of Japan International Cooperation Agency, the project will contribute to modernization of customs procedures by strengthening the tax collection capacity of customs officers and the capacity of lodgement of customs declaration by clearing agents in line with international standards.
And the preparation and implementation of OJT for customs officers and then clearing agents. In order to understand agent classification in depth, of course, we are providing the classroom training. In addition to the classroom training, HS unit provides OJT on-the-job training. The HS amendment, as I said, every 5 years, WCO, World Customs Organization, amend HS code, nomenclature.
Uganda's recently developed economic ties with South Sudan and its hope for future market integration add weight to its political engagement. But it is the long-standing security interests and current military intervention that constitute the Ugandan government's main concern. This involvement is controversial and affects Uganda's status in the region and beyond.
Moving on, in a top stories, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has called on participants from member countries of the South-to-South and Triangular Cooperation to work together and ensure global affluence for all their people. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni made the call during the closure of a 3-day South-to-South and Triangular Cooperation at Speak Resort, Munyonyo. The South-South and Triangular Cooperation is a development and humanitarian programming modality mandated by the member states of the United Nations as articulated in numerous international agreements and UN General Assembly resolutions. In his remarks, the President disclosed that in order to achieve global influence, member states need to support each other by creating a sustainable market for their goods and services. He noted that this system will help in eradicating parasitism and support symbiosis where people equally gain from working together. Museveni also urged member countries to sustainably preserve the natural resources such as water bodies, forests, wetlands, among others, to fight climate change. The President further commended the long-standing relationship that has existed between South-South member countries and called for trade among the cooperation partners and North-South members, saying that this will address the challenge of market for sustainable development. The forum noted the support available under Islamic Development Bank for capacity development, specifically for enhancing national ecosystems for the South-South and Triangular Cooperation. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In international news today, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud hosted a summit with his Kenyan, Ethiopian, and Djibouti counterparts to discuss a joint military offense against Islamist insurgents Al-Shabaab.
The four leaders of the Horn of Africa region are due to discuss a coordinated military offensive against Al-Qaeda-linked group which has been waging an insurgency in the troubled Horn of Africa nation for more than 15 years. President Mohamud has declared an all-out war on jihadists upon taking office in May 2022, rallying Somalis to help flush out members of the Islamist group. Stringent security restrictions are in force in the Somali capital, including the suspension of all commercial flights into Mogadishu. In recent months, the army and local clan militia have retaken territory from the militants in an operation backed by US airstrikes and the African Transitional Mission in Somalia. The 20,000-strong African Union force is drawn from Uganda, Burundi, Djibouti, Ethiopia and Kenya, with troops deployed in southern and central Somalia. Its goal is to gradually reduce troop numbers to zero by the end of 2024, with security to be assumed by Somalia's army and police.
Thank you so much, reporter Nalugo. Moving on, in our international news, Liberian president and former international football star George Weah announced on Monday that he would run for a second term in October, rejecting mounting criticism that he is out of touch with a population facing steep prices, rises and food shortages. George Weah said in his annual State of the National address that he will be coming to the citizens shortly to ask them to renew for a second time the mandate that they gave him 6 years ago. Weah pledged a mandate of opportunity, a mandate for transformation, a mandate for development. He also defended his first term, saying that the state of their nation is strong, stable, peaceful and secure, promising to keep it that way. The election is slated for October 10th in the West African country, which is still recovering from back-to-back civil wars between 1989 and 2002 that killed some 250,000 people. It was also ravaged by an Ebola pandemic, and the nation of 5 million people, one of the poorest in the world, has been hit hard by the consequences of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Weah came to power in 2018 after winning an October 2017 election, capitalizing on his iconic status acquired after becoming the first and only African to win football's most prestigious individual award, the Ballon d'Or, in 1995. More of our international news. South African animal welfare officials on Monday successfully sedated and captured a tiger that was spotted roaming a residential area to the east of the capital, Johannesburg. Ahumuza has more.
Guards monitoring security cameras on an office building in the Johannesburg suburb of Edenvale said that they spotted the big cat early on Monday and took part in its capture, during which officials used drafts containing sedative. Residents were warned to remain alert and keep all their animals indoors. It is the second incident of a tiger on the loose in South Africa in as many weeks. It is not known where the largest tiger came from or when the authorities believe it to be an escaped pet. 2 weeks ago, another escaped tiger was euthanized after being on the loose for about 4 days in Walkerville to the south of Johannesburg. The death of Sheba, the Walkerville tiger, has sparked calls by animal welfare groups for the government to ban citizens from being allowed to keep wild animals as pets. A man who was attacked by the tiger survived his injuries while 2 dogs were killed.
Ethiopian authorities suspended 15 foreign media outlets which have been operating in the country's Somali regional state. Somali, one of 9 regional states, is located in Ethiopia's east. The suspension for allegedly operating without license has ordered at the national level by the Ethiopian Media Authority, and the Somali Region Communications Bureau was asked to take action. Media include BBC, Somali and Universal TV. An official letter by Ethiopia's media regulatory body said it found out in an investigation that there were media outlet representatives and journalists who operated in Somali state without license and therefore in breach of the law. The move follows recent reports of strained relations between independent journalists and the regional authorities. According to the National Media Group, the Ethiopian Regional Journalists Association claimed the suspension was taken in retaliation to media reports on corruption, among other things. Now, Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with business, health, and sports. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Talking matters business, petrol shortages, chaos at banks in addition to insecurity, and the chronic lack of water and electricity have added to the plight of many in Nigeria. Now, Mohammed Baza has been queuing for petrol under the blazing sun for 4 hours, while Alexander Okwari has spent the last 2 waiting at a cash dispenser. We have more on this report.
It's a volatile mix as Nigeria gears up for presidential and general elections next month, with President Muhammad Buhari stepping down after the 2 terms allowed by the constitution. From north to south, the country of about 215 million people is facing a conjunction of crises. And these days, Awolowo, a main commercial road of Lagos, Nigeria's mega city of 20 million people, is constantly blocked by traffic jams, worsened by the waits for fuel, spelling further misery for residents. While Nigeria is one of Africa's largest crude oil producers, it has almost no refining capacity and must import fuel from Europe and elsewhere. This is worsened by lack of cash after the government unveiled new banknotes last October to replace the old naira with a January 31st deadline to make the swap. Days before the deadline, only a few banks were distributing the new notes, leaving many Nigerians who are overwhelmingly poor and without bank accounts without access to cash. Preparing for the elections, the 2 main candidates vying to replace Buhari are Bola Tinubu of the president's governing party and Atiku Abubakar of the main opposition group. The 2 are old political hands, wealthy but also dogged by corruption suspicions in the minds of many voters.
In Africa Today Health in Nairobi, motorcyclists are going electric as new increase in charging points pop up throughout the capital. Now, more charging stations and lower running costs are making it easier to switch away from polluting petrol vehicles. The vehicles are gaining traction as electric mobility companies set up ways to charge the batteries. Electric charging cuts carbon emissions, crucial in the battle against climate change. Ampersand is an e-mobility startup which began operating in Kenya in May 2022. It has 7 battery swapping stations in the capital, around 60 customers. In 2022, it sold 44 electric vehicles in Kenya and it's aiming to sell 500 this year. But Mbote says the government must make it easier to do business. There is some customer hesitancy about switching from petrol to electric, although those who have taken the leap say they are seeing their benefits. EcoBoda Mobility is another electric mobility company that builds, designs and assembles motorcycles. Their bikes can carry 2 batteries, which can last for 160 kilometers. This reduces so-called range anxiety, where drivers worry about running out of fuel before they are able to find a charging point. our sports news today, African Nations Championship leading scorer Ayman Mahias bagged a brace as Algeria hammered Niger 5-0 in Oran on Tuesday to qualify for a final showdown against Senegal. While the host nation were ruthless when presented with scoring chances, Senegal were guilty of some incredible misses as they edged Madagascar 1-0 in Algiers in the other semi-finals.
Algeria will face Senegal before an expected sellout 40,000 crowd at the Stade Nelson Mandela in Algiers on Saturday, a day after Madagascar and Niger meet in Oran to decide who finishes third. It was the widest winning margin in a CHAN semi-final, surpassing the 4-0 hiding Morocco gave hosts Cameroon in the last edition 2 years ago. Algeria also matched the biggest victory in the 15-year history of a unique national team competition, as it is confined to footballers playing for clubs in their country of birth. Niger were also the victims of the previous 5-0 thrashing inflicted by Tunisia during the group phase of the 2016 edition in Rwanda. Algeria go into the final not having conceded in 5 matches, with goalkeeper Farid Chal standing in for the suspended Alexis Guendouzi, troubled only during a brief spell of second-half Nigerian pressure.
It is at this particular time that I thank you for being with us and always joining us. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.